There's a truth no man dares to admit in public, that silence, not words, is what separates leaders from followers. Most men talk because they fear the quiet. They explain, negotiate, justify, like prisoners begging for understanding. They confuse noise with presence, and in that confusion they lose the one thing that defines a man: gravity. I learned this the hard way. Years ago, I thought communication was strength, so I spoke endlessly. Every time a woman pulled away, I tried to explain my worth. Every time life hit me, I tried to talk my way back into control. But words became my own cage. One night, during an argument, she said something that burned through my pride. "You always talk like you're trying to convince yourself." That silence that followed, it wasn't peace, it was exposure. For the first time, I felt how empty my words had become. From that moment, I started to study silence like a weapon, not as withdrawal, but as calibration. I realized that when a man stops reacting, the world starts rearranging itself around him. When he speaks less, he begins to see. And what he sees changes everything. Because leadership isn't about speaking first. It's about speaking last, when the storm has already told you who's real. This is the rule they never teach you. The one buried beneath therapy talk and self-help noise. The rule that turns uncertainty into command. Speak less, lead more. You've probably been there. That moment when something feels off. Her tone, her distance, her silence. You sense the shift, and before you even think, you start talking. You ask what's wrong, you try to fix it. You start explaining, defending, clarifying. You talk because you want connection. But what she feels isn't closeness, it's pressure. You don't realize it yet, but the more you speak, the less she listens. Every word you add becomes proof that you've lost your center. Because what she's reading isn't your logic, it's your nervous system. I remember one night in particular. She sat across from me at dinner, quiet, distant. I felt the panic building in my chest, that desperate need to fill the silence. So I did what most men do. I filled it with noise. Did I do something? Are you upset? Just tell me what's going on. Each sentence felt like reaching out through fog, and every time I spoke, she drifted further away. Her eyes didn't move, but her body said everything. "You've lost me." I kept talking, telling stories, making promises, rationalizing emotions that didn't need logic. I thought I was repairing the bridge, but in reality I was burning it, word by word, because women don't listen to explanations. They listen to energy. And when a man loses composure, when he starts to talk his way out of fear, what she feels isn't understanding, it's instability. That's the trap every man falls into, the belief that communication solves disconnection. It doesn't. Presence does. Stillness does. But the modern man has been trained to over-explain. He's been told that silence means suppression, that talking equals maturity, that endless dialogue equals emotional health. No one told him that too many words kill polarity, that the masculine's true strength lies not in how much he shares, but in how much he contains. The more he talks, the more he leaks power, and the more he leaks, the less she feels safe. That's the moment attraction dies, not with betrayal, but with noise. Because deep down, she doesn't want to understand him. She wants to feel him. And you can't feel a man who can't sit in silence. That's the trap. The one I lived for years. The one every man must break before he learns the hidden rule. No one teaches this anymore, because if men understood it, they'd stop chasing. In ancient tribes, silence meant stability. When danger came, men who panicked died. Men who stayed still became leaders. Their calm wasn't emotionless, it was control. They carried tension like fire inside stone. That signal still lives inside her nervous system. When you go silent, she doesn't just hear it, she feels it. Her body starts reading your energy like radar. It asks, is this silence calm or chaos? If your quiet comes from fear, she senses collapse. If your quiet comes from presence, she feels gravity. Same silence, different signal, different world. Modern culture doesn't understand this because it worships noise. We call oversharing authentic. We confuse disclosure with depth. We think emotion must always be expressed, but biology doesn't care about ideology. Her primal mind still follows ancient laws. To her subconscious, words are surface. Tone, rhythm, breath, those are truth. A man who breathes slowly under pressure signals dominance of self. A man who speaks rapidly signals instability. She doesn't analyze it, she feels it. It's the same instinct that made ancient women choose the hunter who stayed calm while blood ran in his hands. Stillness meant survival. That's why your silence can trigger her curiosity or her fear. It depends on what your silence is made of. If it's reactive, built on withdrawal, resentment, pride, she'll feel abandonment. But if it's grounded, built on awareness, discipline, command, she'll feel polarity. Masculine silence isn't about speaking less, it's about vibrating lower. It's density, gravity, a psychological weight. And every word you don't say becomes a field she has to enter. That's the forbidden mechanism. In a relationship, in business, in life. Whoever holds their state leads. Whoever breaks their state follows. Women don't crave dominance, they crave containment. They crave a man who can absorb emotion without drowning in it. Because that's what leadership is, emotional sovereignty. The world calls it mystery. Science calls it regulation. But every woman who's ever felt it calls it safety. Once you understand the mechanism, you start seeing it everywhere, in relationships, in business, in every room where men compete for attention. The same law governs all of it. The one who speaks least leads most. Example 1, relationships. She tests you through emotion, not logic. She raises her voice, sharpens her tone, throws words like small storms just to feel your foundation. And you, if you answer each wave with another wave, you both drown. But when you stay calm, still, grounded, something shifts. Her storm breaks against your silence. She softens, almost confused, because her nervous system finally feels your presence again. It's not about ignoring her. It's about regulating her without words. A grounded man doesn't mirror chaos. He absorbs it. That's when she starts trusting again, not because of what you said, but because of what you didn't. Example 2. Work. In every meeting there's that man who can't stop talking. He explains, overcompensates, defends. And then there's the quiet one, the one who observes, takes notes, waits. When he finally speaks, everyone turns. Why? Because silence creates contrast. And contrast creates authority. When you speak from stillness, your words carry weight. They cut through the air like steel through water. That's why true leaders rarely explain their decisions. They don't need to convince. Their energy already commands. Example 3. Conflict. Someone attacks you, questions your worth, mocks your choices, tries to trigger you into reaction. Your instinct wants to defend, to prove, to justify, but that's the trap. Because the moment you explain, you've already surrendered your frame. Explanation is submission in disguise. Stillness, on the other hand, is unpredictability, and unpredictability is power. The calm man unnerves the aggressive one because aggression needs reaction to survive. Silence starves it. When you start living this way, the world begins to mirror it back. People start speaking differently around you. They measure their tone, lower their volume, like they're subconsciously entering your field. You become the quiet center of every storm, not because you dominate, but because you regulate. That's the proof. In love, you stop chasing. In work, you stop over-explaining. In conflict, you stop defending. And something beautiful and terrifying happens. You begin to feel alone. Because once you understand the law of gravity, you realize most people are just floating, talking to fill the silence you now call home. You see how the world feeds on noise, how men trade authority for approval every day, and you start to wonder, if silence is power, why does it suddenly feel so heavy? That's when the spiral tightens. The strength that once liberated you starts to isolate you, and what once felt like peace starts to feel like exile. At first, silence feels like freedom. You stop chasing, stop explaining, stop bleeding energy into places that never gave it back. You feel light, centered, untouchable. For the first time, you can walk into a room and not need to be seen. You think you've found peace, but peace can turn on you, because once the noise fades, the echoes remain. And in those echoes, you meet yourself. Not the calm version you project, the raw one that's been hiding under the noise all along. It hits you when the phone stays quiet, when no one's calling, no one's asking, no one's waiting. You realize that the same silence that makes you powerful also makes you alone. You start remembering the man you used to be, the one who over-explained, over-gave, over-cared. He was weak, yes, but he was connected. He belonged to something, even if it was illusion. Now, you belong to nothing but the truth. I remember sitting on my couch one night, lights off, just breathing. The air felt heavy, no arguments, no validation, no noise, and for the first time, I felt the weight of pure stillness. It wasn't peace anymore. It was confrontation. Because silence doesn't just quiet the world, it exposes your shadows, it shows you every part of yourself you've been drowning with words. The fear of not being enough, the guilt of being misunderstood, the loneliness of self-reliance. It all rises in that quiet room. You want to escape, to text someone, to explain again. But you can't. You already know the cost of breaking your silence, so you stay there, and in that staying, something breaks open. You start crying, not from weakness, but release. You realize that silence was never supposed to be a weapon, it was a mirror. And the reflection you avoided your whole life wasn't of her or them, it was you. All the noise, all the stories, all the validation. They were ways to keep yourself from meeting yourself. Now there's no one left to impress. No one left to prove, just breath, heartbeat, gravity. That's when the collapse happens. Not outside, but within. The structure of who you thought you were dissolves, and what remains isn't a mask. It's presence, raw, silent, complete. It's painful, it's pure. It's the death of the performer, and the birth of the man who finally understands that being seen was never the goal. Being whole was. Silence was never meant to make you disappear, it was meant to rebuild you. Now that you've met yourself in the dark, you can start using stillness as structure. This is the forbidden manual, the discipline of the quiet leader. 1. The 90-second rule. When tension hits, do nothing for 90 seconds. No text, no defense, no sudden words. Breathe in for 4. Out for 6. You are training your body to prove that pressure is not danger. After regulation, speak only if truth, not fear, asks you to. 2. Cut 70%. Before you reply, form the full sentence in your mind. Now remove 70%. What remains is essence, clarity without ego. Every word you delete adds weight to the ones that stay. 3. Contain, don't control. Silence is not punishment, it's containment. You are not withdrawing to manipulate. You are holding the field. Warm voice, firm tone. I want a clear outcome, not a loud one. Let's continue tomorrow. Boundaries spoken calmly feel like gravity, not rejection. 4. Observe before reacting. Every trigger hides a mirror. When you pause before responding, you shift from instinct to intelligence. That microsecond of awareness is leadership being born in real time. 5. Words as direction, not therapy. You are not talking to feel better. You are talking to align reality. Speak to guide, not to unload. When your words serve structure instead of emotion, people start following without you asking. 6. Authority through contrast. In every room there is noise. Be the contrast. Let others rush to fill the air while you anchor it. When you finally speak, your tone will land like iron because silence forged it. 7. Daily rituals of density. 10 minutes of stillness before the first screen. Heavy training 4 times a week. 2 deep work blocks of 50 minutes. 1 evening page. What did I hold? What did I leak? What will I adjust tomorrow? Ritual creates rhythm. Rhythm becomes presence. 8. Conflict protocol. Accusation. That's not accurate. Action. I'll send the data. Never autobiography. Never justification. Proof is quiet. 9. The mirror clause. When you feel the urge to please, whisper to yourself, I don't need agreement to be aligned. Harmony without truth is numbness. Truth delivered calmly is healing. 10. Return from silence. When you re-enter after withdrawal, do it with clarity, not frost. State the topic, offer 2 options. Invite decision. Silence earns respect. Direction earns trust. Master these and your quiet stops being distance. It becomes gravity. People will lower their voices near you without knowing why. They'll mirror your breathing. They'll trust you before they even agree with you, because true authority doesn't raise its tone. It lowers the noise around it. Silence is not absence, it is density. And from that density, leadership emerges. Slow, steady, undeniable. When the noise finally dies, you begin to hear the real voice inside you. It's quiet, patient, almost ancient. It doesn't beg to be understood. It doesn't demand to be right. It simply knows. That's the reward of silence, clarity that no audience can give you. You stop trying to manage perception, because presence has replaced performance. You no longer need to convince anyone that you are stable. You are stability itself. From this space, leadership becomes effortless. You walk into rooms and people adjust their tone without knowing why. You answer less, but everything you say carries direction. You are no longer chasing connection. You are creating gravity. You start to notice how most of the world runs on insecurity disguised as expression, how people talk to avoid feeling, how they use words like bandages, never letting the wound breathe. You used to be one of them. Now you are the stillness they orbit around. But that stillness is not pride, it's peace. And peace is not the absence of conflict, it's the mastery of reaction. It's the quiet knowledge that you can stand alone and still be complete. That's what women feel when they're near a man who has met his silence. They feel the difference between control and composure, between noise that seeks validation and silence that radiates certainty. It's not dominance, it's presence, not force, but gravity. You realize now that every man's journey has 2 deaths. The first is when the world stops listening. The second is when you stop needing it to. Only then can you lead, not from ego, but from coherence. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to prove your value. You simply breathe, listen, and let reality align to your frequency. Because the true alpha doesn't lead through volume. He leads through signal, and the loudest signal on earth is calmness under pressure. So you keep walking quietly, each step slower, each word rarer, each silence heavier, and the world begins to follow without knowing why. That's the hidden rule, the one no book dares to write. Power is not what you project, it's what you can hold. The man who can hold silence can hold anything: chaos, desire, rejection, time itself. You've learned to speak less. You've learned to lead more. But your next test is different. It's not about words, it's about peace. Because once you master silence, life sends someone who will try to break it, to test if your calm is real or just control. And that's the next story, the one no man escapes, the lesson that turns strength into intimacy and presence into love.